Theories of Creation, Talk 10. This talk is about the advantages and disadvantages of the gap theory. First, what are the advantages? This theory allows for enough time to elapse since the initial creation to accommodate the current understanding of how old the Earth, solar system and universe are. And secondly, it allows the days in Genesis 1 to be understood literally as 24-hour periods and requires no special explanation for them being longer. It's believed that God remade the world in 6 literal days. And thirdly, Adam and Eve can be understood to have been real historical people existing between approximately 6 and 10,000 years ago, and to have been the first of the human race. But what are the disadvantages of the gap theory? Well, firstly, the theory depends entirely on a particular translation of certain Hebrew words, and it's not readily apparent from the majority of translations of the Bible. And secondly, the specific distinction between the meaning of bara, create, and asa, which is make, gives rise to a number of problems, and the first one of which is in Exodus 20, verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made, that's asa, the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that's in them. Now, if asa can never mean create from nothing, then it must be understood that not only was the earth remade, but so were the heavens. In order to avoid this problem, it's pointed out that asa may also take on several other shades of meaning, one of which is a point. So the sun, moon and stars can therefore be understood to have been appointed for their specific purposes during the 6 days reordering, rather than refashioned. However, an additional problem posed by this verse is the phrase, and all that is in them. If this is understood to mean, as those who hold the gap theory do, that God reshaped all these things, then as the sedimentary rocks with all their fossils were in the earth, why did God not also remake these along with the surface? Why did he leave all this evidence of ruin and destruction of a prior creation intact and merely reshape what was on top? And secondly, in Nehemiah 9, verse 6, it says, You made, asa, the heavens, even the highest heavens, and all their starry host, the earth and all that's on it, the seas and all that's in them. As the word asa is used again, this cannot be understood as referring to the initial creation out of nothing, and therefore must again depend upon some alternative interpretation being made, such as appointed. And thirdly, in Genesis 1, verses 9 to 13, the creation of plants on day 3 has to be rejected. They have to be understood as having been refashioned from pre-existing material, as the word bara, to create out of nothing, isn't used of them. And so Schofield includes as an explanation in his Bible, it is by no means necessary to suppose that the life germ of seeds perished in the catastrophic judgment which overthrew the primitive order. Therefore, it's believed that the seeds of all plants lay dormant during the gap until they were made to sprout again by God. And then fourthly, Genesis 1, verses 26 and 27. Then God said, Let us make asa, man, in our image, in our likeness. And so God created bara, man, in his own image. Here, both asa and bara are used of creating man. If they're to be understood as never being used interchangeably, then 2 different events must be referred to in verses 26 and 27. So man must have been created out of nothing, bara, and then appointed or remade, asa. The explanation for this difficulty, given the customs, is we may gather from this that while both image and likeness were appointed, asa, only the image itself was created, bara, by God, the achievement of the likeness being left to something to be wrought out by experience. And fifthly, Genesis 1, verse 21. So God created bara, out of nothing, the great creatures of the sea and every living and moving thing with which the water teems, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind, day 5. And then Genesis 1:25, God made Asa the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. Day 6. Here, to be consistent, it must be believed that God created from nothing the sea animals and the birds on day 5, but that he appointed or refashioned the land animals on day 6. Realising this problem, the Schofield Bible suggests this. The expression every living creature as distinguished from fishes alone is taken up again in verse 24, showing that in the second creative act all animal life is included. And so it has to be believed that land animals were actually created on day 5, but subsequently appointed or refashioned on day 6. And therefore, if we accept the gap theory, we have to realise that it depends on very specific and unusual ways of translating certain Hebrew words. In the next talk, we'll look at the ruin and 6-day reconstruction theory, which usually goes hand in hand with accepting the gap theory.